Well, welcome to People in Progress. We are regular people learning to live like Jesus. And today, our special guest is Christopher Danford Finch. You guys, and I know him as Pastor Danny. Danny, hello.
Hi.
Your microphone's working all right?
Yeah.
Okay. Just double checking because this is an audio project and we got to make sure that people can actually hear it. How you doing today?
Pretty good.
All right. We're doing this on a Wednesday night as an experiment, and you got selected among many people who could have. They are just quietly sitting, or their phones are beeping even after the pastor told them to. I forgot his own phone. Anyways, Danny, tell us about yourself. Tell us about where'd you grow up?
Well, I grew up in Austin. Born in a hospital there.
All right.
And, a lot of people born in a hospital. Yeah.
Many are. True.
And, my dad, and my mom, they actually met when they were both working at the deaf school there in Austin. My dad was 85% deaf. My mom wasn't deaf at all. So they were both teaching there, and that's where they met, and they went and got married. And from what I was told, because I wasn't around then,
Right.
they actually eloped when they were on like vacation, and kind of ticked some family people off because they had this big wedding planned, and so
all those big wedding dreams were just burst, and they went for the elopement. Okay.
I think they might have still had the reception part though.
Okay.
So
that's the fun part.
And then then when I think it was maybe a month before I turned 3, and my younger sister was a little over 3 months old. My mom actually passed away from a heart attack, and I want to say I think it was like either a Sunday night or a Wednesday night. I don't remember, but like they had just gotten back from a church service, and she said something about she didn't feel good, and ended up having a heart attack. And I remember my dad said that it was like the one time he did CPR where it didn't help. And then I want to say, I don't know how long it was, but then my dad remarried, and then my new mother adopted my sister and I, and my dad adopted her son because his dad had also passed away. For all the legal mumbo jumbo stuff and all that. Mm-hmm. And we grew up, there in South Austin, going to the Nazarene church there.
Okay.
And I'll say at that point, my dad was retired from teaching. And he was actually, he would interpret in the church service.
Like sign language for other non-hearing people or hard of hearing. That's cool.
Because there were some that would occasionally come, and so, I grew up there, active in, children's quizzing and in the youth group, and for a little bit in teen quizzing. I guess wasn't really a very interesting growing up, but.
Well, sure it was.
So,
sure it was. Did you do the jump seat for the quizzing?
Yeah.
Like where you just got to barely jump and then you try to get it fast. Yeah, I was always really bad at that, which is crazy because, I have a lot of energy. I should have been really excellent at it, but I was not. No, because there were older people that were so much better than me.
But yeah, the trick to that though isn't like sitting on the thing all the way, but just like barely on to where he's like barely move and it sets it off.
Oh man. Now I know.
Yep.
Where were you 38 years ago?
That was probably just before I was doing teen quizzing.
So. Right on. Well, you didn't stay a kid. You grew up, and then what happened?
Let's see. Well, went to school, graduated from high school, and then went to college. And so I worked real hard and crammed that 4-year degree into 10 years.
There you go.
And, I took 3 schools and 4 majors. And,
okay. So did a lot of exploration there.
Yeah. I would say I kind of got distracted some too. Learned how to use Photoshop, and that wasn't for a class.
Oh, okay.
So
you kind of did a little, like a side quest.
Yeah.
Kind of jumping out there and kind of doing your own thing, learning your own thing.
Yeah, and then in that time, actually, so I guess starting when I was in high school in the summertime, I'd work at Boy Scout camp, and that was actually where I met Katie, my wife. We were both working there at Boy Scout camp, and then in 2006, which was that was like a few years before I graduated from college, we got married and lived for a couple of years or so down in Bryan in College Station. And then after I graduated, went and taught school for a year.
What did you teach?
Well, when I graduated, I got certified to teach middle grades, which is 4th through 8th, like English, language arts, social studies, reading, and my student teaching had been in an English classroom and also in a social studies class. And I ended up teaching 5th grade math and science.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Sorry for you on that.
Yeah. I mean, I can do the math. I just can't teach it. So
it takes a special gift for that, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. It does.
All right. So you meet Katie, you guys get married, and when?
See, that was in 2006 got married.
Okay.
Then 2008 when I graduated.
Do you guys have children together?
We do now, yes.
Okay.
We had actually now we have 5 kids. I guess you could say we're trying to raise our own basketball team, but none of them play basketball.
It's not too late.
But yeah, I got Noah. He's the oldest. He's 12. And then we have Levi, who is, I think he's 11. No, yes.
It's hard to remember when you got 5 of them, right?
Yeah, I don't keep track of stuff like that. I mean, half the time I don't remember how old I am. And then there's Abby, who is 8.
Nope, just turned 9.
Oh yeah,
I remember that
just turned 9. Yeah. And then Caleb, who is 5, he's going to be 6. And then Eliana, who just turned 1 a few months ago in February. No,
awesome.
Wait, no. Was it February? No, it was March. It was March. Yeah.
Yep. So married.
This is why I have
Katie.
stuff written down.
And I kind of sprung this on you, and kind of made you do it at the same time. So there's grace for that. So you got 5 kids. What do you do? Like when Danny's like, I'm going to have some fun now. What does that mean you do?
See, fun.
Hobbies,
Yeah, I like to read.
Okay.
And sometimes when I get really bored, if I'm able to, I like to kind of mess around with stuff on the computer. But, with 5 kids and 1 computer, that.
Gotcha. Limited time.
Yeah. I also like making things. Like craft type stuff.
All right.
You can't see it, because it's all audio, but yes. Like stuff like this. So
bracelets and paracord things, beaded things. You also do calligraphy.
I tried to
dabbling in that recently. So that's really cool. Okay, well, that's about you. And the reason that we do this, again, is so people can get to know each other, because you can't really love somebody that you don't know. And when you know things about each other and you go, oh, wow, really, me too. I was in the Boy Scouts too. Oh, hey, I did this. I worked here. I also took more than the allotted years for a degree. You know, me too. Same thing. That's true story.
There's an actual allotment?
Well, I mean, there's a recommendation.
Oh, okay.
I don't know. Anyways, so how did you said you grew up at the Nazarene Church in Austin. Was there only one? I know the one that is there now is South Austin Nazarene Church. That implies that at one time there were other Austin Nazarene churches.
Yeah, there was one in North Austin. It was a Grace Nazarene, which I think the word term is reorganized.
Oh, okay.
Into, I want to say it's like Central Austin Nazarene,
okay.
Something like that.
Yeah.
And then there was also like Hill Country out in
Cedar
Park.
Mm-hmm.
So
that's cool. So you grew up going to church. At what point do you remember going, this Jesus guy is for real and he's for me and I'm with him? Jesus, I believe you are who you say you are. Do you remember about when that was? You don't have to have an exact date or.
Oh, that's good because I'm not good with dates.
Okay.
It was at, I want to say it was at kids camp, children's camp. I don't remember which year, but that was something that, one of the things I went to every summer.
Mm-hmm.
Partly because my parents helped to run it and everything, but it was always fun.
I love camp. It's my favorite.
Then, it was out there when I first came to the Lord.
Okay. Good old camp.
Yep.
Awesome. Who are some people in your life that influenced you in your walk with Jesus?
I'd say definitely my parents. Say my dad especially. And then my older brother as well. Which I have two of those, but I guess it'd be the younger of the older brothers.
Okay.
His name's Jim.
Okay.
And he actually is a pastor in Littleton, Colorado.
All right on.
So, and then I would say also Randall Wiles, who was the pastor there at South Austin. He's since retired. And then also I'd say the Gosnells as well. Jim and Tracy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it wasn't just one person, and it wasn't just you on your own figuring life following Jesus out.
No.
You had help.
I never would have figured it out.
Well, me either. Me either. All right. So with everybody listening, and by everybody, I mean, the scores of listeners that we have on our podcast by now, what are some moments that you look back on and you think that was a spiritual marker for me? Like I really had to mature spiritually there, or God showed up in a miraculous way. You got one or three of those you want to share? No pressure.
Well, I mean, I would say, which I think I probably mentioned this before, like a few minutes ago. When I was called to the ministry, and cause when I graduated from college from A&M, going into teaching, and taught 1 year, and fifth grade in math and science, and fifth grade is not for me. For that matter, neither is math or science. So I was looking for another job, and I put out applications all over, in Belton and even in Temple and in Austin, which wasn't really my favorite place anyways.
Okay.
Grew up in Austin. Austin grew as well, and there was a whole lot of people, more people than I really want to be around. So, even out in Del Valley, in Bastrop, I think I even applied all the way out in Uvalde.
Oh, wow.
Not at the elementary school, but, because, like I said, 5th grade's not for me. No.
Gotcha.
Like, I'm preferring middle school. But anyways, it's beside the point. And at the same time, when I was looking for another job, still working in the summers at Boy Scout camp.
Okay.
And there was a lady there that actually worked, I guess, under me, because I was like an area director at the camp. And she made the suggestion. She was like, "Well, have you ever thought about being a priest or a pastor or whatever they call it in your church?" Because she was Catholic.
Okay, yeah.
And
different names.
And yeah, and I was like, no, I hadn't really, and then later I was talking to Katie about it, and she was like, well, we need to pray about it, and why don't you also call Jim?
Yeah.
And see what he has to say. It's like, okay, so we prayed, and I called my brother Jim, and one thing that he told me that I still remember is that if this is what God wants you to do, then you won't be able to do anything else.
Yeah, we won't be happy, won't be satisfied.
And
there's some other preachers listening right now that are like, yep. That's true.
And so, I prayed about it some more, and I was like, all right, God, if this is what you want me to do, I'll do it. But at the same time, I don't want to do it if it's not what you want.
Good call.
Yes. And so, in praying, I'll, remember the story of Gideon in the Bible, and how he had also questioned God about, is this what you're wanting, because, partly because he didn't want to do it, I think. But he put the fleece out and said, all right, everything else is going to be wet, but the fleece is going to be dry. And that happened. And he put it out again and said, okay, this time do it in reverse. The fleece will be wet and everything else will be dry. And it happened. So I was like, all right, God, so if this is what you want, these are the conditions for me to know that for sure that this is what it is.
So you laid it out there.
Yes, because I'm. You could probably ask Katie this, but I'm not all that great at picking up some of the subtle hints of things.
Be direct, Lord.
Yes. Kind of, I guess, like, Samuel was told, to say, "Speak, Lord, your servant is listening." Mm-hmm. This is kind of, "Speak, Lord, your servant is listening," but, I'm also kind of stupid in this way. So, and so I was like, all right, God, so if this is what you want, then, I need like 3 people that don't know anything at all about what's going on to bring it up and kind of suggest that this is what I do. And if I'm not supposed to be teaching and doing this instead, then, I need to be told no. And not like a soft no, like, but like, like a hard no.
A clear answer.
Yes.
Okay.
And, if that was said in person, that would count, as opposed to, being, sent a letter in the mail.
The form letter, yeah.
We went with another candidate, yeah. So, and that's not something that they normally do, because they prefer the letter so they don't,
Don't have to interact with people until people know.
Yes, exactly.
Yep. I don't know anything about that myself.
And yeah, surprisingly, that actually happened.
Okay.
It was, had different people, bringing up the idea of, going into ministry. And actually the last one was actually my mother. And I really didn't want to acknowledge that she had brought it up, because she had also made some other really, I want to say, really bad suggestions as far as employment opportunities.
Okay.
But yeah, she was the third one. And then I had an interview at a school, and it was on the other side of Austin. It was like, here in in Belton, for those that are listening that, trying to visualize this in your head.
Mm-hmm.
Belton's on the north side, 2 counties up from Austin. So I had to
land far away.
So I had to drive down through Austin, through the traffic,
mm-hmm.
to the school district that was just on the southeast side of there. And, got there, and the principal that was doing the interview was running late. And, so I sat there waiting, and he got there. Some other people got there for interviews, and, they, went and he talked to them and, did the interview or whatever, and they left. And, finally it was this is way after school hours also now too. And so I'm sitting there, and he finally comes out and he calls me back, and he's like, yeah, I don't remember why I called you in to come interview.
At that point where you're like, you called me here for a job, dude.
Yeah. And so I was like, man. And so I was like, all right, well, and he was like, yeah, just, if you see more jobs, just keep applying. But I, don't know what it was I, called you for an interview for.
Wow.
So I left, and I wasn't exactly thrilled.
Sure.
Because I'd driven all that way through the traffic,
mm-hmm.
sat there and waited some more. And all that just to be told, I don't know why.
And now you got to drive back to and through Austin.
Yes. And by this time it's 5 o'clock. So it's
nobody's on the road.
So-called
smooth.
rush hour.
Yeah. Okay.
And like I said, I wasn't thrilled. Honestly, I was a little ticked off. But I guess you could say in that rush to get home, when, traveling at breakneck speed in traffic.
A long time ago.
Yes. Kind of had the realization that I had just been told no.
Mm.
And that, this was God answering, I don't know if I'd say it, my prayer, but answering my condition that I had put.
That you were looking for guidance, and you feel like he gave that to you.
Yes.
Okay.
And so I was like, all right. And so from there, I was like, well, and so I, found some substitute teaching jobs, and kind of doing that as a short-term solution.
Do what you got to do kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yep.
Living with my mother-in-law, because, that's what all the cool kids do. And
easy way to save some money.
Which, by the way, in case she is listening, my mother-in-law is a really, really cool mother-in-law. So
nice save.
But and at the same time, I was also looking to see what I needed to do as far as going into the ministry.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember there were some times when I'd go in there to substitute in a class, and I had a copy of the manual with me as well. So, because I was reading parts of that as well with some of the preparation stuff.
Uh-huh.
And then I was like, if I'm gonna be a preacher, one thing I know they got to do is they got to do counseling. I got no idea how to do that. Maybe I should go to school for that.
Do you love school? Is that why you were in it for a while?
I like learning.
Okay, that's fair. I think a lot of people are like that.
And, so I went and, applied at UMHP here in Belton.
Okay.
And they had it was a marriage and family Christian counseling track for a master's degree. And so I was like, all right, because probably going to do some marriage counseling. And, so, all right, yeah, I'll do that. Which I ended up later switching from that to just the regular, clinical mental health counseling track.
Oh, okay.
But
plenty of need for that too.
Yes. And so, yeah, I went and, registered for that and got, was getting started in that. And they had it was like a group interview type thing.
Okay.
And the lady that was the assistant for the department, actually in the group interview thing, kind of pulled me out and said that she had a message for me that I think it was Katie that called her and had left a message saying that my dad was in the hospital. That he was in ICU. It's like, oh, okay. And so, when the interview stuff was done, left and went home and went from there. This was before we had kids also. Mm-hmm. Actually, no, we had one. Sorry, we had Noah.
Okay.
Went from there down, to the hospital and, visited with my dad. And at one point, one thing he said was, well, at least now you got some experience visiting someone in the hospital.
Oh, man.
So, and, I would say while he was there in the hospital, he got some test results back and stuff and found out that he had cancer in 5 different places. And he actually didn't leave the hospital. They moved him from the ICU. He started getting better and said moved him to a regular room, and then he passed away there. Which,
Sorry.
And quite honestly, probably better that happened instead of the kind of the cancer later on. It's less
the prolonged battle.
Yes. But yeah, so and so then the following spring, the following spring was when I started the counseling degree program, and finished all that, and was also doing ministry classes on the weekends, working towards finishing ordination, which, I don't know, maybe this is becoming a theme here, but it took me 10 years for that too.
Okay.
But hey, I mean,
that's your rhythm, is
get
it done in a decade.
If you look at Moses, though, it was 40 years, and then he went. Right. It was in the desert for 40 years. Then he came back, another 40 years in the desert after that. So,
right. There's precedent. That's what you're saying.
Yes. There we go. That's it.
That's good stuff. Well, Danny, thank you for sharing that part of your story. Tell us about, that's kind of been in the past. It's been several years now. Tell us about one thing that God's taught you recently, because we're all works in progress. We're on the wheel of progress here. And what's God taught you recently? You can define recently however you need to.
You got to trust him. He definitely knows what he's doing. And it might not be in the time that you like or that you want, but he's got it. And as often as you kind of have the impulse to, I guess in a sense, kind of snatch the steering wheel away, and try and drive your own life,
grab control.
Yeah.
Yeah.
God's got it. He's not gonna wreck it, which is what would happen if you grab the wheel.
True. I think that's a lesson we just always need to keep on repeat. And I feel like if I flip through my journal, I'll see that 75 times, just trust me, relax, trust me. Well, Danny, thank you so much for taking time to share part of your story with us today. And I also want to say thanks for what you do here around the church. I secretly refer to you as Digital Danny, and just because you do a lot digitally for us. Send out our emails, text messages, our live stream stuff on Sundays, and other duties as assigned. But just want to say thank you so much for serving God's church in that way, and I'm so glad we're on the same team together. And thank you for sharing today.
No problem.
And that is it for us. We will see you guys on the next episode.
Thanks so much for listening to this episode of People in Progress. If you'd like more information on Belton Nazarene Church, you can go to belton.church for our website. Or if you'd like to share your story on the podcast, please email Pastor Derek at belton.church to set up a time. We are so glad you checked out this episode of People in Progress because it is another way that we get to encourage each other to live like Jesus every day. Lastly, we are confident of this, that he who began a good work in you will carry it on to completion until the day of Christ Jesus. Thanks so much. We'll see you next time.